Chapter 7. The Return of the Lost. The great transit atrium of Mirkdusk had been cleared and prepared for the ceremony. Once a loading bay for ore shipments, its massive stone columns now bore the crests of the Trade Guild and the newly restored Alliance sigil, a circle of realms surrounding an open gate. Hundreds had gathered, not all families, some fatherless, some childless, some still waiting, but enough that the air was thick with anticipation and dread intertwined. A hush fell the moment Aeliana stepped into the atrium. Her presence changed the room immediately, not because she carried the Staff of Realms, not because of her title, but because she walked with purpose. Calm, steady, offering something Mirkdusk hadn't tasted in years. Hope. Gunnar followed at her side, the crowd shifting even more at the sight of him. The wolf. The man who had broken Dreven's last line, the man Black Dawn had turned into a monster in their stories. Gasps rippled, whispers spread like cracks through stone. And then Alpha emerged. A wave of instinctive fear rolled backward through the atrium like a shockwave. The dire wolf's massive form moved with controlled power, golden eyes sweeping the crowd. His presence was unmistakable, primal, ancient, commanding. Some stepped back, a few fell to their knees, most simply stared, trying to make sense of the legend standing before them. Gunnar placed a hand on Alpha's shoulder, not restraining him, simply saying, "I'm here." Aeliana raised her voice, cutting through the whispers with the kind of clarity only she possessed. "Citizens of Mirkdusk," she called, "we gather here today not for battle, but for reunion." Silence followed, the kind of silence that came from a whole realm holding its breath. "This ceremony," she continued, "marks the first act of a new alliance, one built not on fear, not on domination, but on respect. Today your people return to you." Behind her the secured doors opened. The first group of prisoners of war emerged under escort, thin, tired, some limping, but alive. Gasps erupted from the crowd, joy, disbelief, grief breaking free. A woman broke from the line and sprinted toward a man with bandaged hands. She slammed into him in an embrace so fierce he nearly collapsed. A child ran to another prisoner, sobbing into his coat. One elderly man fell to the floor crying, clutching the returned soldier's face with trembling hands. Aeliana stepped aside, letting them have the moment. Gunnar moved to stand beside her, scanning the crowd with the same focus he used on battlefields. Watching for fear, watching for danger, watching for the shift between terror and understanding. One prisoner froze when he saw Gunnar. His eyes widened. He trembled. Gunnar approached slowly. "Easy," he said quietly. "You're home." The prisoner blinked, recognition fighting the propaganda he'd been fed. Finally, he whispered, You didn't kill us." Gunnar's jaw tightened. "Not my job." Alpha stepped forward, lowering his head so his eyes met the prisoner's. The man tensed, then Alpha chuffed, a deep, soft sound. The prisoner swallowed, lifted a shaking hand, and touched Alpha's fur. A collective gasp swept through the room. Aeliana's voice rose again. "Let this be the first of many bridges rebuilt, the first of many wrongs righted, the first of many truths uncovered." Ashley stepped forward next, reading out names from a tablet. "Family of Taran Mull, family of Ellen Drast, family of Ivor Wren." Groups surged forward with tears and cries that echoed off the stone walls. Hish approached Aeliana, voice low. "Thank you. This means more than you know." Aeliana placed her hand over his. No realm stands alone anymore. Behind her, Darren was helping a limping prisoner down the stairs, one arm under the man's shoulder while Omega hovered protectively near Clara. Darren murmured something that made the man laugh, a small, disbelieving sound, and Aeliana caught the moment, warmth flickering through her expression. More names, more reunions, more lives restored. Then the final prisoner emerged, thinner than the rest, eyes sunken, walking slowly. The crowd quieted without being told. A little girl gasped, "Papa!" The man looked up, disoriented at first, then his face crumpled as she ran to him. He fell to his knees, clutching her with what strength he had left. Aeliana closed her eyes briefly, letting the weight of the moment anchor her. Gunnar stood beside her like the pillar he always was. Alpha leaned against Gunnar's leg, calm now, sensing safety. When the last reunion settled into quiet sobs and murmured words, Aeliana stepped forward again, staff of realms glowing faintly at her back. "Today, Mirkdusk rejoins the Circle of Realms," she said, "as partners, as allies, as equals." The crowd straightened. Even those who feared the wolf looked at him differently now. Gunnar stepped forward, voice low but carrying. "We'll stand with you, and we'll train whoever you choose to protect this realm. But remember," his gaze swept the room, "no more warlords, no more fear, no more secrets." Aeliana met his gaze. Only unity. The crowd erupted. Applause, cries, voices rising in something that felt like the beginning of hope. For the first time since Draven's rule, Mirkdusk was not a cornered realm. It was a member of an alliance, and its people were not alone. Chapter 8. The Gathering of Voices. The repatriation ceremony slowly settled, the echoes of reunions fading into murmurs and soft conversation. Ashley guided the crowd toward the upper corridor, while Hish motioned for the alliance leaders to follow him into a fortified chamber overlooking the atrium. This chamber was built after Draven's fall, a place meant for planning, strategy, and rebuilding. The walls were smoother, the lights brighter, and the air carried less fear than it once had. Aeliana entered first, Alpha at her side, the dire wolf settling near the door like a guardian statue. Gunnar took his place beside her, Alpha in every sense of the title now that the realm acknowledged the Pact's presence. Clara took the far side of the table, Omega lying across her boots. Darren leaned against the wall behind Aeliana, eyes sharp, reading every face in the room. Ashley stood near a tactical holodisplay, waiting. Hish and his lieutenants took their seats, still stunned by the ceremony's impact. Aeliana lifted her hands. "We will begin once all voices are present." The door at the rear creaked open. A hush fell. Argoz stepped inside. She wore her true form, the form she had finally grown into proudly. A striking goblin girl with rich moss-green skin, delicate angular features, brilliant amber eyes that reflected Mirkdusk's ley-line glow, and dark hair pulled back with a small silver clasp, shaped like a crescent gear. She carried herself like a survivor, and like someone who finally knew her worth. Dust coated her boots. Her sleeves were torn. She had dried cuts across her arms that shouldn't have been left unattended. She smiled sheepishly as everyone looked her way. "Sorry I'm late," she said, brushing stone dust off her clothes. "I got tied up with some unfinished business." Ashley raised an eyebrow. "What kind of business?" Argoz tossed a small satchel onto the table. It clanked, hard. "These," she said. "Black Dawn stashes, 3 of them, hidden behind collapsed mining tunnels in Sector 11. Someone didn't want them found." Hish blinked. Sector 11 was sealed under Draven. Argoz shrugged. "Yeah, bad job sealing it, though. I could smell the explosives." Darren let out a low whistle. "That's our girl." Argoz flashed him a grin, half proud, half exhausted. Aeliana stepped forward. "You're hurt." Argoz waved her off. "Scratches. Tunnel rubble fell on me. Nothing the medics can't glue shut." Gunnar crossed his arms, the Alpha's authority settling over his shoulders like a mantle. "You shouldn't have gone alone." Argoz rolled her eyes. "Alpha, please. I grew up in those tunnels. If anyone was meant to find what Draven hid, it's me." That shut the room up, because she was right. Hish stood slowly, emotion catching in his voice. Argoz, child of Mirkdusk, you return to us not just alive, but a protector of our realm. Her amber eyes shimmered, not with tears. Argoz didn't cry in public, but with something deeper. Belonging. Yes, Aeliana said softly, warmth flooding her words. She defends her realm just as she always has. Clara gave her a nod. Omega thumped his tail in recognition. Darren grinned. She's been out there doing recon, clearing threats, finding weapons, while the rest of us were arguing. Argoz plopped into an empty seat. Yeah, well, arguments don't dig out stashes. Explosives do. Ashley barked a laugh. You're ridiculous. Thank you, Argoz said primly. Aeliana lifted her hand. We can begin now. The room quieted. Alpha lifted his head. Everyone leaned in. Argoz's eyes sharpened. She was fully present now, ready. This is the first meeting, Aeliana said, of Mirkdusk's leadership and the Pack under the banner of the Alliance. We will speak openly, honestly, and with the future of this realm in mind. And, Gunnar added, with the people who bled for it sitting at this very table. Argoz straightened a bit. Hish bowed his head in gratitude. Aeliana gestured toward the satchel Argoz had tossed. We will discuss the Black Dawn stashes shortly. Argoz nodded. There's more out there, she warned. Those tunnels weren't the end of it. And we'll find them, Gunnar said. Together. Aeliana placed her hands on the table. Let us begin. Chapter 9. The Alliance Oath. The strategic chamber settled into a low, expectant quiet. Aeliana stepped toward the center table, the soft glow of the Staff of Realms catching against the polished stone. Alpha lay near the door, golden eyes following every motion with calm alertness. Gunnar stood beside her. Alpha of the Pack, presence steady and grounding. Clara and Darren took positions just behind them, Omega resting beside Clara's boots. Ashley remained near the tactical display, arms folded but attentive. Across the table, Hish and his lieutenants waited, anxious, hopeful, wary, but ready. Argoz slipped quietly into the open seat beside them, dust still on her boots, but her posture proud. Her amber eyes flicked between Aeliana and the guild elders. She was both witness and bridge, the child of their realm and a warrior of the Pack. Aeliana placed a thick rune-sealed dossier onto the table. The Alliance crest shimmered on its cover. This, she said gently but firmly, is the Pact of Interrealm Cooperation, the codified agreement of unity, sovereignty, and mutual defense. Signing this will formally recognize Mirkdusk as a full member of the Alliance. The room went still. Hish leaned forward, his voice rough. And what does that truly mean, Ambassador? It means, Aeliana said, that your people will never stand alone again. It means aid in rebuilding, training for your new defense forces, trade restored, protection guaranteed. Her eyes softened. It also means responsibility. You will support your fellow realms in turn, with resources, knowledge, and presence at Alliance councils. A hush swept the room. Gunnar spoke next, voice low and steady. It means when the enemy moves, we move together, and when danger comes, you call. And the Pack answers. Alpha chuffed once, as if punctuating the promise. Argoz breathed in sharply at that, a glimpse of the girl she used to be before the Pack, before the gem, before she'd ever believed unity was possible. Aeliana drew 3 gilded pens from the dossier and set them on the table. One for Mirkdusk, she said softly. One for the Pack. And one for Alfheim, representing the Alliance Council. Hish reached for the pen with a hand that trembled only slightly. As long as Mirkdusk stands, he whispered, we will honour this pact. He signed. The ledger woman signed next, then the engineer lieutenant, then Argoz, her signature fluid, elegant, claiming her place not as a survivor, but as a leader. Aeliana took the Alfheim pen. With deliberate care, she signed her name. Aeliana Vale, Ambassador Guardian of the Realms. Then she stepped back, offering the final pen to Gunnar. He didn't hesitate. He signed, Alpha of the Pack, and as the ink dried, a subtle pulse of magic rippled across the page, the alliances recognizing each other, binding the pact in silent living rune light. The room exhaled as one. Aeliana lifted her gaze, her voice carrying quiet authority. With this pact, Mirkdusk enters a new era. You have friends now, allies, and when the alliance meets, your voice will be heard. Hish bowed deeply. Thank you, Ambassador. Alpha, all of you. Gunnar placed a hand on the table, fingers tapping once in his practical soldier's way. We've done good work today, he said. Now let's be ready for whatever comes next. Aeliana met his gaze. Because it will come. Alpha rose beside them, and as the leaders of Mirkdusk gathered their documents, as Argoz wiped dust from her clothes and straightened her shoulders, as Clora and Darren exchanged a knowing look, Aeliana closed the dossier with a soft, final snap.